VIMTV.com.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. Today, we're going to do a 2010 album that's getting so much hype. It's unbelievable. And do we think it's deserved? Maybe. Paul Weller's Wake Up the Nation. Tom, who is Paul Weller?
Paul Weller was the leader of the Jam.
The leader.
Yes, he was the singer, I believe, guitarist of the Jam. I don't know, maybe he was the bassist or something. I'm probably wrong. I'll probably just get that wrong randomly. Anyways,
somebody correct him if he is wrong. Please.
Yes, please. But they were a very important punk band, along with like the Clash and Sex Pistols, bands like that.
Very British.
Yeah, very influential, even more so on the post-punk scene. I mean, this sounds like the things that were influenced by the Jam. Things like Wire. I guess Elvis Costello was even around that time. But Blur and Peter Gabriel mostly in the vocals. Even like Gang of Four.
Oh, even stuff like the Future Heads.
Yes, yeah, even more modern. I mean, the stuff I was naming was even like back to the 80s and 90s. But yeah, Future Heads, there's a whole movement now of that like fast kind of British punk stuff, and Paul Weller was around to influence that, and now he's still around putting out kick-ass solo albums that are at the top of that sound. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
I guess we just gave our opinion on this album because we both love it.
Yeah,
so.
it's really good. The thing is, it's 16 tracks, and there is not a single weak one.
No.
They are all good tracks, and they're all different. And not only that, but the pacing is just perfect. The tracks are pretty short. They just move right along, and even though they all sound very different, they create a cohesive sound, mostly in the production, but also just in Paul Weller's attitude and vocal delivery. He's just damn good.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's one thing that I've been harping on a lot lately about how vocalists need to sell the concept of the album. They need to sell the sound. If you're gonna have vocals, if you're gonna have them, they gotta be good. Don't put vocals on an album if it's just going to detract from the sound of the album. And Paul Weller puts his vocals on, and it's an instrument. It makes the whole album sound better. It convinces you that this is awesome, this is kick-ass, and he has total control over the sound. Mm-hmm. And in these 16 tracks, one thing I want to mention, these 16 tracks haul ass. Mm-hmm. There's not one on this album that's real slow beat. I mean, each one of these kicks you in the face, and it's unapologetic, and I love that attitude about any music. I just love attitude in music. That's your fault. But one thing that I really want to highlight here is there's two defining characteristics of this album that I think that's actually prevalent in a lot of really good albums right now. But it's something that I think the Beatles captured on the back half of Abbey Road, that I think this is just the way this whole album is structured. I don't know if there's a song over 4 minutes on this album. Most of them are between 2 and 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. But the short track length is one, and then the other is the swung beats. Whether it's fast paced or a little on the medium pace side, it's everything swung on this album, and I like that. I mean, it's just this overwhelming groove of the whole 16 bucket of tracks that you have here, and it's just boom, 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 and you're dancing throughout the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And you put up a tweet about how it's good room cleaning music. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you want to clean your room to this music, and an album that makes you want to,
because you can move to it. It gets you energized, and it even works with the title, "Wake Up the Nation." It's energizing. It's like a call to action.
Yeah, and the music will. It's motivational music. It's not motivational music, but it's very stimulating. Is a good way to put it. And really, I don't have much bad to say about this album. I think it's excellent. I mean, if I were to dig, and I mean, I need a backhoe to dig for criticism on this thing. It would just be that this thing gets maybe a little carried away. I mean, it's hitting you in the face with these 2.5 minute songs throughout the whole thing. That by the time you get to the end, the thing just kind of stops. It doesn't really wrap itself up. But how can you? It's so expansive. It's so grandiose, and I mean, it would almost be impossible to make a solid closing wrap-up track to an album like this, and so just stopping it kind of works. I mean, it's not like they can have like a secret track that says, in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. You're not gonna top that, so just might as well stop. But I don't have a lot else to say. I mean, I love this album. I thought it was very strong. I'm not quite comfortable giving it a 90 yet, because it really hasn't... It's not like I'm having a romantic affair or dreams about Paul Weller yet, which has happened before when I really love a band or an album. We'll save that for another time. I really feel like this is very strong. I'm going to go 86.
I'm actually going to give it a higher score than I thought, just because I have such a hard time thinking of anything bad to say about this. So I'm going to give it an 84.
Nice.
The only thing I could possibly say is that while there isn't a single bad song on this album, there are really only a handful of great ones. The other ones, while I can't really call them filler because they'd be like the best filler you'd ever hear.
Right.
But they're not necessarily standouts. They're just like little ditties.
Well, and the whole format of the album is not to provide you with these big ass anthems. It's to be these short little snippets of in ideas that aren't taken to an indulgent length.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Have you listened to Paul Weller and Wake Up the Nation? Are you fans of the Jam? Does this compare? I mean, to some of the Jam's work? Do you like it? Tell us what you think. I'm really interested to hear what music listeners out there think about Wake Up the Nation. So let us know at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. I am Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are BIMTV, moving music critique forward.